Okay, welcome to Piggypower. I'm going to show you how to do a trap rod end. I'm going to start with a good wire brush and a bit of WD-40. I had previously done this a couple of hours ago, so that had soaked in really nicely on this trap rod end. We get a 22mm spanner. Sometimes they're 21s and 19s, but usually on 206s they're 22. We'll release the lock nut. Just enough so it's loose. We don't want backing it off all the way. We'll show that why later. A pair of vice grips or mole grips, something to turn that inner trap rod, just to make sure that's free as well. If it's not, you're going to have to fight with that, get it nice and free now before you get the trap rod end off. 17mm, usually 17 again, sometimes they're 16. We're going to loosen that nut off. Now, I've been fortunate enough here that it's not spinning. If it is spinning, a simple trick is to get a little jack and jack it up from underneath the trap rod end, right under there, so it pushes up and holds the joint while you undo the 17mm nut and remove it. Now, if you're going to reuse this trap rod end for some reason, you're taking the hub off, leave the nut on while you release the joint. I'm not, so I'm not bothering to protect the threads, but that could be a way to protect the threads. Get a hammer, don't smack down, smack the joint, and it'll shock it out. Just like that. Just that. Shock the joint, shock the hub, and it just drops straight out. Or it'll bounce up if you were doing this on a different car. Then we can spin this out. Now sometimes they're a bit tricky, they're a bit seized in, so this could take some work. A pair of more grips on the inner trap rod, and then another on the outer, and you just keep turning and turning, working it out. But this one has been nicely greased by someone at some point. Who'd have thought? Someone maintained it. So just spin it all the way out. As you can see, it's quite a few threads. And then we get our new one, and we're going to grease up those threads so it's just as easy next time someone goes to remove it or adjust the tracking. Nicely greased up. Yummy. A new lock nut. Sometimes they don't come with one, so you have to reuse the old one. But this kit came with one, which was very nice. First line kit. So we get those threads all nicely greased. And then, this is where this lock nut is important, and you didn't move it on the old one. You want to line them up so the centre point of the joint to the end of that nut is the same. Now don't just compare threads to threads, because as you can see on this, there's slightly different design. As you can see on the floor, I'm just making sure. Now this is not perfect science, but it's as close as you possibly can until you get the wheels aligned. Then just spin the threads in by hand until they're all the way up to that lock nut. Get the joint itself pointing the upward direction, obviously, and then line up the hole, slot it in. Now it's going to probably drop down, could even spin. It shouldn't spin, it's a nice tight joint, but if it is, then you do the same method as removal, so you just put a little jack underneath there to hold the tightness of the joint in the hub so it doesn't spin while you do this nut up. Now officially I think this nut is 35 Newton meters, so make sure you torque it to spec. There is a little Allen key head in there, hex in the side there, so you could put that there and if it was spinning, but they often round off quite badly and you don't want to be doing that. So a little jack underneath the joint always works a treat for me. There we go, 35 Newton meters, job done. Now we're going to tighten up that lock nut. That's officially 45 Newton meters, but just tight with that spanner. And then take it to get it aligned. Proper shop to do that so you don't wear your tyres out and your steering is correct. And you have successfully changed your trap rod end on a 206. If this was useful, give it a thumbs up.